When you're ready.
Hey everybody!
What's up?
So, we're back for the second half of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
Agents Aftershock. We did a video for the 100th episode.
Yes.
But when you were pulling stuff off my phone, I somehow got messed up and deleted.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay, because we can cover it in this episode as well. Because that was like the last time something actually changed for the better, I thought. We just did Bad Movie Night, and we watched The Amazing Bulk. And after that was over, I described the ending as quite possibly the biggest wet fart of an ending you could possibly have. And then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ended for the season. And I think it's been replaced. You're pissed.
I'm so pissed off, dude. There's so much.
You're more pissed now than you were watching The Amazing Bulk, and you were pretty pissed during that.
I'm mad. Like, legitimately mad about
really?
a bunch of
I
shit.
guess it's because I stopped caring about it. Like, if we weren't doing this for the review, I probably wouldn't even be watching this show at this point. I stopped caring about this show about halfway through season 3. It was right after about a third of the way through season 3, because it was right after the Ghost Rider plot ended. And it was just like, that was 4?
That was last season, dog.
No, that's right. I stopped caring when they brought, after they brought Gemma back from the negative zone.
That was season 3.
That was season 3. Yeah, that was when I stopped caring during that season, because I don't remember any of the Hive bullshit that happened. I was just like, okay, that's great. Oh, Ward is back.
They finally murdered Ward.
Yeah, they did. They murdered him at the end of season 4, or season 3. I fully expected him to come back. Season 4 sort of pissed me off. Season 5 sort of won me back because it had some clever ideas and started off really strong. And then they got to them getting back to Earth. And I was like, okay, so the second half of the season is going to be them prepping and trying to figure out how to prevent the Kree from invading. Which they sort of do.
It was that, but the ending just made. All right, so
let's pick up right there, since the 100th episode we.
That's where
it's fan service. The episode.
Well, yeah, that's where we got the dimension rift thing.
Yes, and it's like a nightmare escape that is making everybody's worst fears come to life. Or some shit. Because you have Lash come back.
Hive.
You have Hive, which apparently is just a Cthulhu monster in a suit.
Well, that's what he really looked like.
Really?
He wasn't
okay. Okay, well, that's Cthulhu monster in a suit. You had large open spaces for Deke, who grew up on a space station his entire life, which I can kind of understand that a little bit.
You also had product placement, the movie, starring Deke and Zima. Like
it was borderline. He cracks open a Zima, turns to the camera, and goes,
"Dude." So I actually bought some,
and it worked on you.
It was, dude. That shit's so. I was actually gonna get some for us to drink and do on this, just to talk about how shitty Zima is, but I couldn't.
We don't need to. Zima's.
I couldn't put my taste buds through it again.
Zima was the joke beer that you would have college frat boys drink in movies in the 90s.
Oh my god, it was so bad.
It was one of the most blatant shows of product placement.
It got
I've ever seen in a
limited release back.
Yeah, I know.
And
it's like, just Jesus. Do you need to put a? I think there should be, whenever you do something that blatant, there should be a little tab underneath the bottom of the screen that said, this product placement bought X amount of screen time for this show. That's how much of the show's budget was bought by this product.
Because he goes big on it for 3 episodes and you never fucking hear about it again.
The only other time I've ever seen it that blatant was actually in an episode of Alias. And it was the only episode I watched too. And it's when they run outside and they're trying to catch up to the bad guy, and she points and goes, "We can catch them there in that brand new Ford Taurus." It's really?
Oh, Jennifer Garner. When you needed to pay bills before Batfleck.
Yeah, but so you find out that Deke is Fitz and Simmons' grandson from the future, which I kind of thought was an interesting idea, but they never do anything with that. Like,
no.
it's addressed, and then nothing ever comes of it.
My biggest beef with this season,
well, I say nothing ever comes of it. There's like one or two things we think might have happened as repercussions of the end of the season, but nothing's done like in between. There's like a couple of interactions that Fitz has with Deke where he's like, "You're a fucking loser," and I'm like, "You a good man, Fitz."
But man, then Fitz had this total like freak out and like went back to being partly evil, and I don't remember Daisy losing her powers, but she did.
That was something. The Kree dude from the first part of this season had them install like a power dampener inside her.
Yeah,
and it was like mixed in with her spinal cord, so it's like absurdly difficult to untangle. And she was like, "You know what? I'm fine not being and not having these powers, especially since I'm apparently the person who shits the world."
Yeah.
So,
well, they call it the Destroyer of Worlds, and then we have a new villain introduced, Ruby, and you think she is gonna be this big fucking deal?
Like, I would have loved for her to be the end bad guy for this season.
Like, they built her up, and they fucking built her up, and she's like, "I'm the Destroyer of Worlds," and she wanted to beat Daisy. Like, that was her in-game plan.
Well, that was what I was kind of looking forward to. I was like, okay, so she could be like the dark reflection of what Daisy could have been if she had allowed her powers to go unchecked.
And the actress did a great job.
No, she was fine. I had no problems with her.
That was the actress, man. I was telling you, I was pulling for her to be Spider-Gwen.
Yes, you were very happy. You were very, very on board for that.
Well, she voices Spider-Gwen in a couple things, and like a couple Marvel animated, so I was like completely on board for her.
Well, when we're introduced to her, we're then introduced to her mother.
Yes.
Who is general of this top secret place where she has her daughter sequestered. And you were like, I don't know what's going on, and I told you it's going to be Hydra because that's all they have. And you were so adamant that it couldn't be. And then it comes up and she whispers, "Hail Hydra!" And somebody's there. And I'm like, boom!
It's the last goddamn branch of Hydra.
Yeah, last branch.
Yeah.
There'll be 15 others out in the wings. But that was when Yo-Yo lost her arms, and she got
Jack's arms.
She got Jack's arms from Mortal Kombat 2, which to me was like, okay, so you've seen Yo-Yo in the future where she was being kept alive through alien methods, and her blood was being used to disseminate the Inhuman juice.
Yeah.
And that was how they were making more Inhumans to use in this combat arena. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. And then she loses her arms, and I'm like, okay, so this is where something happens. And the timelines diverge. Like, this would be a wake-up call to say, okay, something's different happening.
See, dude, that's why I didn't understand.
Somebody out there is going to make sense of what I just said.
Yeah, I didn't understand why they got on, like, her, Fitz, and Gemma just got on this "we're immortal" kick.
Well, that happens later, and I have a lot to discuss about that. But,
like,
well, actually, we can talk about it now because virtually nothing happens in between now and then because that's the next biggest revelation.
Yeah, and like Gemma, like, legitly drank a bunch, like, a couple of vials of water, and there was like a thing of like fucking acid.
Yeah,
and like it's like, you've lost your fucking mind.
Yeah, that was where I was like, okay, so you've officially given up this season. Like, there's no actual reason for them doing this. This literally flies in the face of logic and any scientific endeavors.
Yeah,
you really should not be doing this. Which was one of the big things that really pissed me off. And I was like, well, you clearly are just saying, yeah, these characters have plot armor. Stop asking about them. Because there's nothing that's going to happen to them. And I'm just like, well, why bother having tension then? If you're not going to bother making things interesting for the characters.
Yeah.
And it really just kind of...
Even though that's completely undone in the finale.
Yes. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Well, I mean, the plot armor kind of should have already been broken when Elena lost her fucking arms.
Right, that was what I was thinking. I'm like, you have evidence that not everything is the way it is in the future because you have Robo-Arm Chick.
Yeah. I learned something interesting about, like, that particular character.
Okay.
In the comics, her actual name is Yo-Yo. Like, Yo-Yo Rodriguez. Like, Elena's not a thing. And
that's her actual name.
Yeah, and her hero name is Slingshot.
Okay. That only sounds slightly stupider, so...
Well, they did like a one-shot series with her called Marvel Slingshot. But, yeah, just fun fact.
Okay. But we also have characters named Flash Thompson in the Marvel Universe, so I'm not going to question too hard on stupid names from Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say.
I thought his real name was like Eugene or something.
I don't fucking care. But...
Hey, man, he was a great Venom.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that. So, you find out that Simmons thinks that at least her, Fitz, and Yo-Yo are invincible.
Yeah.
Because they clearly make it to the future, and since Fitz is... Which really kind of flies in the face of Simmons' determination that fate is an illusion that you only craft for yourself, versus... or, pardon me, did I say Simmons?
Yes.
Okay, Simmons believes that time can be changed and they should try to change the future. While Fitz is on this fatalism kick that time is set in stone and that what has happened will happen. He approaches the Bioshock Infinite, happened, will happen.
Yep.
Versus her, who's like, no, the time's not a set structure, it's much more fluid and it can be changed. So, rather than keep up on that, for the sake of all of her thinking, she instead chooses to use it whenever things are down and says, no, we can change the future, but we're going to live to the future. That part is totally set in stone, and it's totally happening.
Yeah, her fucking reasoning is very weird. Also, like, they use that time to randomly just reinsert gravitonium as a thing.
Yeah, that just pops in and it's like, oh, by the way, the gravitonium's the thing again, and I'm like...
Well, they had to use it to close the rift to Magic Fear World.
Right.
And
which I was totally okay with. I was like, alright, that makes sense.
But then, like, we find out the bad guys are after it, too.
Well, that was kind of the thing that started to really kind of make me mad, was when we finally start doing stuff again. They go out and they search for what the bad guys are doing, and it turns out that they're trying to find a chamber that Hydra was working on, except it's the same chamber they used in Captain America, the First Avenger.
Yeah, they were trying...
Literally the exact same prop.
Yeah, they were trying to recreate the chamber, basically.
Right, except they're using gravitonium now rather than Vita rays, which both are amazingly stupid concepts, but, I mean, at least you have one that's proven to work as making somebody super strong. Twice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had so many, red flags with the gravitonium, too.
Yes.
Like when they reintroduced Carl Creel, the Absorbing Man.
Yes.
And he touches it, and, like, he knows, oh, shit, there's, like, two dudes in there, like, arguing back and forth. And
yeah, and then she refuses to listen to him. It's just like, you're just a giant pussy.
I mean... I really wanted this character to be something, though, and for them to throw her away like they did, like, what were we, like, 4 episodes before the finale, roughly?
4 or 5.
She absorbs, like, 8% of the gravitonium.
Yes.
And, like, is losing her shit and can't handle it, and then Yo-Yo goes in and just straight slits her throat.
Okay, I have a lot to say on that, but before we get too far away from this, because there's a lot of minutia that happens, we know that there's a ton of stuff that happens in between now and then, but none of it really affects the overall storyline, or even within the same episode sometimes. So
we're kind of just like plot pointing here, for the sake of
we're hitting
time.
the big stuff.
Yeah,
is what we're saying. All the little stuff happens, but it has such little impact in the overall story arc that it might as well just not be there. So you could trim, I would say, almost 40% of this, half of this season out, and you would lose 0 story arcs.
Yeah. And like,
because by that point we've gone through the supposed actual death of the Russian cyborg dude.
Yeah, again. Like, I didn't even understand why he was there. Like, he just to be there.
Yeah, pretty much. We go through that. We go through Von Strucker's kid, who I forgot was even in the fucking thing.
Dude, you're not the only one.
Like, he pops up and I'm like, who the hell is this? And you're like, your father, Von Strucker. I was like, I'm like, oh, right, him.
Fuck, yeah.
You're a person in this. Holy shit.
And he has like a weird thing with. Did he die?
I don't know. He just kind of.
We'll call him dead.
We'll call him dead for the sake of argument. He'll pop up 3 episodes into the next season. He's there, and he apparently has photographic memory now. Like, I don't know if that was established in his previous.
That was weird.
And so he recreates the Captain America chamber, but they're all like, "This is something that Hydra was working on," and it's like. That's the Captain America chamber.
Yeah.
For somebody who's supposedly not the old Hydra, you're really old Hydra here.
Yeah, and we also found out, like, this, like, the Ruby was genetically developed for greatness, and they just... storyline.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No, this actually reminds me of a comic book point. You remember Apocalypse 2000?
Vaguely.
With the introduction of Monarch?
Vaguely.
Where it turned out to be...
Oh, it was Hawkman.
Hawk.
Yeah. Or Hawk, yeah.
Yeah, it was Hawk from Hawk and Dove. And, like, everything pointed towards it being Captain Atom. Like, the telltale clues that had been dropped throughout the series where it's like, it's Captain Atom. It's going to build up and it's going to be Captain Atom. And then somebody leaked it, supposedly, from inside DC, and they're like, shit.
And they immediately
changed it to being Hawk, and it was absolutely zero.
He saw it. He saw himself, went crazy, and then put the armor, like, because he killed himself, saw himself as that, went crazy, then put the armor on, and...
But it still makes zero sense?
Yeah.
That's what this season sounds like. Like, all these people, like, they dropped so many clues as to what was going to happen, and so many people were just like, okay, this is going to happen now. This is what they're working towards. And then somebody...
We were really on point last season with our guessing, though.
Yes.
Like, towards the end.
Well, you were, and I will attribute this to you. You really can guess schlock really well. Like, you have a sixth sense for it.
Dude, I do work in a movie theater. Like,
you do.
I'm so used to it, man.
It's honestly kind of amazing. I wish I had this power, but at the same time, I don't, because that way I can be entertained by the schlock as it happens.
You the white guy.
Honest to God, that was one of the best things you ever did. But, yeah, I think that's what happened, is a lot of people built up this idea of what was going to happen and what was going to play out, and they decided, shit, now we're not going to have our big surprise, change everything.
And that's where we see an old friend who was chilling on Supergirl, but I guess Marvel decided to throw some money at him.
Yeah.
And hey, Talbot's back.
General Talbot, who got captured and was tortured by Hydra, and they get him back, and I'm like, okay, so this is
and he was mentally damaged because Robo Daisy shot him in the head.
Yes, and I was like, okay, so this is going to be... He's going to be really weirded out, and we can go through some really dark things with him. Like, you could approach PTSD, you could approach mental recovery, the stress of having to be in a battlefield scenario, while at the same time trying to recuperate your faculties as is, after being mentally and physically tortured by this group that is known for being amazingly evil. And I'm like, okay, this could be really, really interesting.
And it was
for about half an episode.
Until
it was through the episode where they escape and team up with S.H.I.E.L.D. again after Coulson and Talbot get rescued.
Yeah.
And he makes contact with his wife. And it's like, oh God, they've mentally brainwashed him, and she's being forced to speak the code phrase that's going to trigger him. Okay, this is interesting. And he goes through and he tries to capture Robin. and they try and talk him down from it. Which I forget, did they or did they just kind of sneak attack him?
They knocked him out and threw him in a room.
That's right. And so through there, I was like, okay, this could really go somewhere. I'd like to see how they approach this, because now you have a friend who you know is your friend. He's a staunch ally. He's helped defend you after he knew you were not part of the Hydra thing. Sure, he's been a little rough around the edges, but now that he's been fully and thoroughly steeped in the shit like you have, gone through way worse than most of your top agents, there's really got to be something you can do with him. And then they just have him absorb the gravitonium, and now he's
Gravitron.
He's Gravitron, the stupidest fucking name I've heard in a long. Like, he sounds like a third-rate Transformers villain. Like when Megatron's too busy, and even Starscream is preoccupied fucking around in like medieval times and bullshit. Like, here comes Gravitron to wreck the Autobots, and then they like blew him into Jupiter or some shit. Into the episode.
But, like, let's not forget the whole time while he turns himself, like, he absorbs the rest of the gravitonium that Ruby didn't.
Well, even then, I was kind of interested because, speaking of Ruby, I'll get back to her in just a second, because this plays a really big role in the character development of the people. But I still thought, I was like, okay, well, there's still stuff you can do for this. I mean, this is somebody who's not been against superpowered individuals, but now that he's kind of said, there's nobody else who can do this, I will do this. Maybe it'll bring him a little closer to the Inhuman understanding, open him up a little more towards what's going on.
All he said the entire time is, I can fix this, I can fix this.
Yeah, and I was really interested. I'm like, well, how do you fix this? And then there could be this huge reconciling of how wrong he was about trying to promote this anti-Inhuman agenda at some points, and being on board with the Inhuman neutralization programs. And I was like, okay, so you could really do something with his character. And then they just turn him evil. Like, he goes mad with power!
Well, let's not forget, his way of shutting the voices up were to tell them to shut up.
Yeah, which, that was, going back to Ruby, that was kind of the most interesting part, was when you found out that the other people, they were still consciousness in the gravitonium, and they were then inside her head and shouting at her and trying to basically pull her brain apart. And I was like, oh, okay, so this could really be interesting towards her character if they can find a way to knock her down, depower her or something. But then Yo-Yo just slices her throat, and I'm just like, oh, okay, well, that's done. And then they treat Yo-Yo like she's the bad guy. And I'm just like, did anybody else have a plan for stopping the Ubermensch there? Because things were all set for her to break the world apart. I mean, things were literally shaking apart, and then somebody did something when no one else had a plan, and it's like, I mean, yeah, it sucks you killed a kid, but you did what you had to do. And yet everybody's like, you shouldn't have done that. We would have found another way. It's like, in what? How?
Let's not forget, like, the whole time, like, Talbot absorbed the gravitonium, that gravitonium.
Yes.
I'm getting gravitonium and gravitron blurred here.
It's okay.
But he absorbed it all because aliens were invading the base while Daisy's out for the mini plot of the whole second half of the fucking season. Coulson's dying.
Yes.
Coulson is dying, so she went to find a cure, and she found some centipede serum, which we haven't seen since season fucking 1.
Which I was kind of down with. I was like, alright, I can understand
And
this.
she was infusing it with her season 2 dead mom's DNA.
Yeah, that I was a little less okay with, because I was like, you really kind of make a big stance against her going nuts because of that. So maybe using her genetic programming to like fix him up isn't the best thing. Don't you have other healers?
But then they found out that the centipede serum can be mixed with something else to stop Talbot.
Yes, with the Imodium or whatever they called it.
Yeah,
I know it's not Imodium, but
Imodium, maybe.
Yeah. cures tummy aches, and empowers you to kill your enemies while spontaneously eating you alive from the inside.
But they did neither with it.
No, they didn't fix Coulson, and they smashed the black stuff, which was really a great way to be democratic about that, May. Thanks a lot. Who I would have thought, getting back to Yo-Yo, I would have thought would be way more sympathetic towards Yo-Yo for what she had to do, and I'm just like, okay, she of all people will understand.
Yeah, she had to kill a kid.
Exactly.
Like, they both have had to kill kids.
Exactly, and she's not aggressive towards her, but she doesn't try and help her get through what surely must have been a horribly painful incident to try and do.
Because they fan serviced and made Coulson a thing.
Yeah, they did. Which I gave up on trying to debate the shipping years ago, so I'm not even
I mean, we all saw Fitzsimmons coming.
Yes, that was something that was very clearly written into the show. I was like, alright, but I can understand that. And the two actors have worked well together. And they've actually made a fairly believable pairing.
Yep. But also, like, let's not forget, we're kind of jumping everywhere, but...
That's okay, so does the show at this point.
With Talbot, his whole reason for being fucking crazy, though, and, like, he decides he needs to go to Earth and absorb all the gravitonium.
Yes.
He's wanting to fight Thanos when Thanos comes.
Yeah, they say that a great evil is coming, but they never actually say anything about Thanos.
Oh, no, they say Thanos.
Did they say Thanos?
They said Thanos.
I was horribly disinterested at this point.
So he's trying to, like, gear
well,
up.
let's go a little bit further into that, because he absorbs the gravitonium, and then decides, I'm fixed. I fix the situation now, because I am strong. And as we all know, the military only thinks that might makes right, and there's no such thing as diplomatic solutions for generals.
Well, like, he absorbed, like, he turned Creel into gravitonium and absorbed him.
Yes.
And then he absorbed some from, like, Chicago. Well, you know, the shit in Infinity War is going on. So New York's already trashed, and he goes and trashes Chicago.
Right. Well, that's kind of the thing. I really felt they just floundered on his characters. Like, you could have done so much with this person,
dude.
But you instead just decided to put him in a knockoff Black Panther suit.
Dude, that suit was awful. Those fake muscles, like, it was clear that shit was fake.
Yeah,
like,
I hate to rag on the actor, but it was very clear he had a dad bod underneath spray tan abs. It looked like me getting into a suit with. You remember that awful Meet the Spartans movie?
Yes.
Yeah, it would look like me being in one of those outfits.
Dude, like...
And I am horrible without my shirt.
I would have, like, been okay if it had been, like... They had, like, the suit from... Like, the first time he put the suit on, he had the cloak and everything. It looked kind of just like a regular costume. It didn't look like the fucking big... They should have... Sorry, left that cloak on.
Yes,
and
it really helped divert attention away from the spray abs.
Like, they should have not, like, tried
well, getting
to
back to that, we find out that Hydra has been in contact with a bunch of aliens called the Confederacy for a long time.
God bless the Confederacy.
Yeah,
that's what
I fully expect one of them to show up in a Confederate hat and be like, "Oh, more late early."
I expected Cartman to show up and be like, "I love this Confederacy."
Yeah, they make it very, very clear that these are nothing but evil
and you meet Daddy Cassius.
Yeah, which really kind of breaks the timeline even further. So it turns out that Hydra has been in contact with aliens, and they've been trying to find a way to stop Thanos from coming.
No, they were completely, like, yeah, Hydra was trying to prepare and stop it. Dude, these people, like, were just completely using the humans to steal all the vibranium.
That's right.
And they're like, so no, we knew you stood no fucking chance. And you get to meet Daddy Cassius.
Yes, this is when you meet the Cassius household elder that was mentioned in the first half of the season as being this horrible shithead towards everybody.
And he's still kind of
this horrible shithead, but they kill him.
Oh, no.
Did they not?
No, Daisy was there in, like, virtual world. Like, that thing was on her head.
Yeah,
and
I could have sworn Talbot, like, it destroyed
No,
his
Talbot
spaceship
killed
or
the
some
rest
shit.
of them.
That's right. So it turns out that Talbot then discovers, well, I'm going to control the other Confederacy members. And
that was just
very
one
brutally
of those,
crunches people into little, like, it's a Mortal Kombat style. I swear to God, this is a Mortal Kombat
like
fatality.
just.
Yeah, like a dark.
I would
it's
have
one of the dark
loved this.
magic characters where he just lifts them up and then crunches them into a ball, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But
You know what? I honestly think he maybe could have had a legit shot at Thanos.
you never know. But we can't have the TV shows and the movies interact.
Yeah, because Daisy and him had to have their big fight, and she had to inject herself with centipede serum and do the stupidest ending ever and just shoot him into space.
Okay, well let's get to that in just a second because that kind of segues into the final bit here. After Talbot has gone completely and totally bonkers, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, he determines that he's going to help save the world by absorbing all the gravitonium. And he then decides, I can be more powerful if I absorb Quake, who tries to talk him down. I was actually really happy that this sort of happened. Like, they try to approach him, like, as a man.
Yeah.
And try to appeal to him and be like, look, something is going to be coming. You're very powerful. This is 100% true. You are already a hero. You don't need to keep saying, I'm going to be one. You were one. You did amazing things, and everybody who does what you do and what
they
we do.
are really pushing that Daisy is going to eventually have to take the leadership role,
which I was 100% okay with. But then they're like, yeah, maybe you're right, but I love quaking things, so let's fight. And then he fights her, and he tries to absorb her through his gravitonium hands, which he has now, I guess. And so he tries to absorb her, and you had to point this out to me because I was so fantastically disinterested that I didn't care. They had Coulson had initially fallen into a bit of a mini coma thanks to whatever the hell is killing him, which they never actually discern what's going on.
Oh, no. So the shit that brought him back to life in season 1.
Yes.
Was undone when he merged with Ghost Rider, and it basically burned it out of him. So
yeah, because as we all know, that Kree stuff totally kept him alive through all those other things that almost killed him.
Well, that
like when the Kree stuff interacted with other Kree stuff, and he started to Chris started to cocoon up almost, but then they cut his hand off, so it stopped. Because that really wouldn't have affected him at all.
But well, no, I feel that Greg Clark just was kind of like, I need a break. And
honestly, I'm not gonna blame the guy. 5 seasons now? 4 seasons?
5.
5 seasons? Okay.
And he's
5 seasons
been playing Coulson.
And 3 movies.
He's gonna be in Captain Marvel too, and he was in Iron Man, Iron Man 2,
yeah, Avengers, Thor. So 4 movies.
Avengers,
and then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's been in 5 seasons worth of show, 4 movies, and honestly, if you had asked anybody else to play that kind of a character for that long, yeah, at some point they're going to ask to take a break, which I 100% get. I just kind of wish they could have written him out of the show a little better if this is what they're planning on doing.
I was so pissed off that ending.
Well, that's when he comes out of his coma and they decide, okay, Coulson. I wanted to say Greg for a minute there, but okay, Coulson, we have this stuff that can cure you. Take it, and you'll be fine. And he's like, with absolutely no reason not to. Like in world, he has 0 reasons not to take this.
He had to save the world, though. He didn't think Daisy could beat him on her own, which.
It turns out she couldn't, so thank God he did this. But, like I say, in universe, Coulson has no reason not to take this serum and get back to 100% and be like, alright, I'm going to not be the director for a while. I think it's time for somebody else to take the reins here because I may have some warped perspectives at this point. Time for a fresh point of view. And they could have done that, but instead they say, nope, you have to go, I'm not going to take the serum, and then covertly slipped it into her gauntlet.
Yes.
But then when Gravitonium Man starts absorbing her, she's got her arms bunched up, and she just automatically spring loads it up.
No, she knows it's there, and then pulls it out.
Well,
and
it's like really, really obvious, like it wouldn't fit naturally, so there would have been this distortion in her gauntlet, so she would have felt that normally. and I'm amazed that little vial held up under her vibrations. But yeah, she injects herself with the super serum, and that reverses Gravitonium Man's.
It gave her
pull on
more power, and she was able to vibrate him off of her.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys like to be vibrated off.
God, you're retarded.
But
dude, it's fucking early in the morning. If you guys couldn't fucking tell when we're shooting this thing.
Yeah, she injects herself, and that gives her the power to reverse what he did and blow him off her. Which he then decides, well, I'll just tackle you now, and she says,
and she drops to the ground. At least she didn't destroy the world, but she drops to the ground and shoots him.
She basically tells him, get the fuck out, and blasts him through the stratosphere into space. And I was like, all right, that was actually kind of cool. But that's how you end Talbot's story arc, is he just went crazy, and they killed him. You took somebody who could have been very, very interesting and kind of a commentary on people's recovering abilities, the effects that it has on soldiers, and how they perceive the world, and you could have done something very interesting with that, but instead just decided, like, no, he's evil now! Black and white only! No shades of gray!
But
People cannot deal with more than one statistic!
Let's talk about the...
And so they changed the future, and...
The death out of left field.
Yes.
That, as all this is going on, they're all in buildings trying to save people.
Deke utterly disappears from the show and is never seen again. We don't know what happened.
Well, Fitz died.
Oh, well, yeah, him too, but who cares? I mean, he's only one of the longest standing characters who actually went through character arcs, developed further as a person, and was one of the more interesting people to work with and see in the show when things were at their absolute stupidest, but...
Wow.
Yeah.
We're gonna stick a fucking whatever the fuck that was.
A big piece of aluminum siding, which I was like, there should be a little bit more blood coming out of a man who just had a big sheet of roofing go through him, because it's not pierced through. It's like a sliced. It's like a whole slicing, except you see where his shirt still covers part of it, so it looks like there's stuck through, like he was stabbed, but then it rounds out and goes around his shirt, and I'm like, did it just warp into him?
Man, I was so...
I laughed so hard.
I was pissed off. I'm like...
No, I laughed so hard at that point, because all through the entire second half of the season, they were like, we're invincible. They effectively just keep saying, we have plot armor. We don't have to worry about repercussions. And so I was like, how's that testicality working for you now, bitches?
Well, Deke kept talking about how he was going to phase out of existence anyway.
Potentially. Potentially, which they never see. You don't see him again, which I guess they just phased out. So it's like...
He kind of, said goodbye to Daisy, and then, they did this thing where they showed, Fitz's two things, because he had one and Deke had it from the future, and then at the end of the episode, you only see one. So I think Deke is gone.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure.
Whatever.
But the end of that shit, though, where they were making a memorial thing, it wasn't for Fitz, it was for not dead Coulson yet.
Yeah, and I was like, wow!
Fuck Fitz then, huh?
Did he fuck a producer's daughter, and then that's how they wrote him out of the show? Because this is a giant middle finger towards him. It's he did some messed up things, but he has always been there to help fix it. He did his best to make things right.
I'm gonna.
And in the end,
I'm gonna throw this argument. Fitz has been the best fucking character in this show.
I will second that. I will closely second that.
Him and Simmons.
He's been consistently written well.
But
there are a few points where things kind of hit a weird low with it, but that's mostly the show going in a weird low and not like the actual character.
He like started off the nerdy guy, and then he suffered the brain damage and having to recover from that.
Yes,
and like him like seeing Simmons and shit, and then like him like getting over that, and then having like finally the courage and building up and asking Simmons out, and then fucking she gets taken, so he has to do all that shit and find her, and then even last season, like they put him in the fucking thing, and he gets a completely different change, and you're like, what? Why is he like this? And you find out, you know, if he had been raised by his father, he would have been a dick.
Yeah,
he just had so much. Yeah, man.
Well, that's kind of the big thing at the end when Coulson retires. They're pouring out the whiskey for everybody to drink, and I was like, okay, so they're having a remembrance. Their fallen friend. It's like, okay, I get that. That's actually a really good way to go out. But then Coulson's like, come on, it's not a funeral, it's a retirement. I'm like, wow! I mean, I'm a callous fuck. Like, I will say the most inappropriate thing at the most inappropriate time just to get a laugh out of one person.
And you weren't even.
And I'm not even that emotionally dead inside where I would say something like that. To the widow as she's walking up. I'm just like...
I was like, the whole time, I'm like, you're pregnant. Don't drink that whiskey. But I guess she's not pregnant. And
I guess not.
Body.
Yeah. Just,
sorry.
Fuck off. So, well, there's nothing that says like he's not going to be born because again we don't see him disappear, which I feel like this is something they would be very on the nose about. Like saying,
we don't see Coulson officially die either, so
no,
I'm assuming he's going to come back. But I think him and May will be gone for like, dude. The next season isn't coming out until next summer.
I'm honestly really happy for that because if they are going to continue it, they really need to take a break. Look at their priorities. Understand where the Marvel Universe has been, because while this is all happening, I fully expected it to end with this anticlimax for a lot of them, where people just start to drift apart in a little dust.
I was waiting for
like
that.
The fight with Talbot, like Daisy goes to punch him or something, and they just drifts apart, or vice versa.
That would have been dope, dude.
That would have been really great, because then you have this realization, fuck. We did everything wrong. How do we fix this? And then you have to go through and you could have like the bad guys and the good guys becoming temporary allies and saying, all right, we have to put our differences aside. Something way bigger than what we were, our petty squabbles, has officially come and wrecked our shit. How do we fix this?
They could have like left that there on a cliffhanger, and Coulson is going to be in Captain Marvel,
right?
So they could have just brought it all fucking together, and then like waited until after the sequel to Infinity War, and like actually let at least 2 or 3 of the characters. Like, dude, I think Chloe Bennett would do great on the big screen. Like, she is a power player, and her powers would work well with the other Avengers.
Yes.
Even if, like, they killed Coulson off, like, the other Avengers still think he's already dead. So that wouldn't have made a big difference. She could have been like, well, actually, he was alive.
Or even better, how much of an emotional gut punch would it have been if you had Coulson actually take the serum, only for it to be undone by Thanos' snap?
Oh, man.
That would have been a nut shot and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that seems to be kind of the running theme with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as of late, is wasted potential. And either the studio making the shows, completely ignoring the movies, but also the movies ignoring the shows.
Chloe Bennett gotten some shit for they were mad at her because she was like, you know, season 1, like, we were big connected.
Yeah.
And she's like, now they don't acknowledge anything.
Yes.
Like, our show doesn't acknowledge the movies, and the movies don't acknowledge our show. It's kind of fucking dumb.
Right.
Like, she got in some shit for... her and Willa Holland, like, both did it around the same time.
Yeah.
So, and Willa Holland's obviously was a bigger statement because she was just telling DC to go fuck themselves.
Well,
she was saying our shows are better than the movies and they need us.
I'm
but
not going to disagree with her, but...
No, Willa Holland was completely right. And
at this point, I think it would be way better if they
beyond.
were to establish that, like, the TV shows are part of a different part of the Marvel multiverse. And that way they could establish that they do their own thing and they could, like, have their own cast of characters brought in for different roles, which I think would help them expand their universe a lot better.
Yeah.
But instead, we're still left in this weird lurch where supposedly everything's connected, but it doesn't feel like that at all.
No, like, no one ever transitions out. Like, we're getting Cloak and Dagger next month,
which isn't going to be attached to any of the Marvel universe that is established. That's going to be its own thing.
Yep, but, like, all these shows could have connected in some... Like, in Inhumans and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., even though as terrible as Inhumans was, dude, like, your prime person that should have showed the fuck up would have been Daisy.
Right.
But they were in the future. So, you know, that's understandable. Like, they weren't there at the time.
Right.
But then you, like, man, fucking... I felt S.H.I.E.L.D. would have showed the hell up in New York and have done something with...
You just reminded me of the worst part of this season. Is the very, very ending. Because they played fast and loose with causality and the way time travel should work. I have to say that in quotes because time travel is obviously not an actual thing, but there are semi-established guidelines as to what they were doing even.
Yeah.
And it's vaguely hinted that Gemma is now going to try and find Fitz, who is waiting in like a freezer pod, going to the future.
Oh,
because Coulson presents her with the thing that says, I'm working on it. And he says, don't worry, I'm sure he's out there. I'm like, are you going to do this? Because that is going to unravel a situation you were already in. Like, the only reason you got out of that situation in the future was because Fitz came to the future by being frozen. So if you remove Fitz from going to the future, you're effectively going to leave yourselves trapped in the future.
But they undid that future, so it's not necessary because...
In theory. But they were already working with the idea that they were going to go back to the past anyway, and that was why you had Quake in the picture before the world ended, after she had been taken.
Oh, so, my fucking God.
There is a massive, massive plot hole in there. If that's going to be their running theme next season. So...
Oh, next season's gonna get supernatural, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Guess who they're talking about bringing in? You ready for it?
Hang on. Son of Satan.
Character we've seen already. Has had a movie and a TV show.
Movie and a TV show.
The TV show did not last long. I think it got canceled before the first season.
Constantine.
That's DC.
Hellboy.
He's not Marvel either.
Mr. Fantastic?
Nope.
You know, at some point you would eventually catch on that I'm just fucking with you and you would say the character.
I was just going to let you keep going for entertainment. Blade.
Really?
Yep.
Unless it's Wesley Snipes, I ain't watching. And he should 100% be high off his ass the entire time. Pass them production notes on Post-its written as Blade. Like, I want that entire thing from Blade Trinity to keep going. And that be what they do.
That would be the third appearance of Ryan Reynolds in the Marvel Universe, too. Like,
oh, man, that's right.
You forgot he was in
I forgot he was in... Oh, Patton Oswalt was in that movie, too.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit. shit, man, that movie was awful, and I'm sorry for everyone involved. Except for Wesley Snipes, you tax-dodging son of a bitch.
Dude, Dominic Farrell is in that movie.
Are you fucking serious?
He was Dracula.
Oh my god, he was!
Yeah!
Wow!
And Jessica Biel.
Yeah, nobody cares about Jessica Biel.
She was Chris Christopherson's daughter.
Yeah, she was, wasn't she?
Yeah.
I couldn't understand why they brought Chris Christopherson back, ever since they killed him in the first one, and then never explained why he was back in the second one. You might as well.
Logic! Movie logic!
I had 3 other people lined up, just so you know.
Where's that?
I was going to bounce from Frankenstein to Moon Knight to Blue Beetle. I was going to throw in 2 DC characters in the middle of it, just to fuck with you.
No, I think Frankenstein's been there.
Well, technically Dracula is as well. Marvel had the license for him for a while. There's actually an anime, Dracula Sovereign of the Damned, that Marvel helped produce way back when. It's really hard to get a hold of. I'll show you a review of it at some point.
Dude, but I think they have rights to a version of Frankenstein.
Well, DC has rights to a version of Thor as well.
Yeah, and a version of Hercules.
Mm-hmm. Because I technically think those characters are public domain, so they can't actually have a right to them.
Yeah,
they would own the character design that they came up with for them. So that way, blonde hair Thor couldn't show up in DC, but redhead Thor probably wouldn't show up in Marvel. So,
something like that.
It's something along those lines. They own the character portrayal rather than the character. I think is how they go. Which is kind of how they had Captain Marvel in 2 different universes. They were both radically different, but they shared a name.
Until New 52.
God damn it. I swear to God, for all the shit that I give Iron Man 3 for continuing to butt-fuck the entire Marvel movie franchise because of its doings with Iron Man, New 52 has done equal amounts of damage to comic book characters just all over the place.
You're not wrong.
How long ago was that when it was released?
Fuck.
Nearly 10 years, I think?
Close to...
It was 2009? It was 2008, 2009. I forget when exactly, but I think it's been nearly a decade. And they're still putting... Aren't they still putting New 52 on shit?
No.
Oh, they stopped that. Thank God. Because I knew they were doing that for almost 3 years out of that.
It was 9 or 10, because I was out of high school, but I was still working at Kroger.
Right.
Because I was hanging out with Tommy, and then I bought Action Comics #1 just to say, oh, I have Action Comics #1, ha ha ha. But...
And then I got it through Loot Crate for nothing.
No, the rebooted.
Oh, the rebooted.
Remember, they reset it.
Oh, God, that's right.
And then they realized that they fucked up and undid it and went back to the old numbers. Because we just had Superman 1000?
Something like that.
No, issue 1000 came out, of Action Comics. And
right.
They were, it's the only comic to ever actually do that.
Right.
But, yeah. We're way off topic, though.
We are, but you know what? That's okay, because this show got really off topic with its dealings.
So,
all in all, this season was a really mixed bag. I felt that it started off really strongly and sort of carried itself a little bit into season 2, but the second half of the season is really where it fell apart.
I'm just gonna say,
mostly because
it did nothing. I didn't like a lot of the future stuff, but I'm really big into stuff like that, and so I thought a lot of the designs, while simplistic, worked for something that was supposed to be a rundown space station that is orbiting Earth. And so I was like, okay, well, that kind of works. You would have this massive complex where it's very, very isolated. It wasn't a space station, though. It was the lighthouse.
It was a section of Earth. You could basically say it's a space station at this point. Yeah. But no, it wasn't the lighthouse because they went to the lighthouse on Earth. Didn't they?
That's because the stone transported them to the same place.
No. In the future, they went down and supposedly... No. That was the bird. That was the ship that they had.
Yep.
Okay, never mind then. Never mind. I was way off. But, yeah, I felt that the future stuff kind of worked really well. It took them out of their element and forced them to deal with a lot of issues that they normally wouldn't, i.e. the oppression and subjugation of the human race over this overwhelming force and trying to rally them into a fighting militia to try and rebel against their evil masters, which I thought they could have done a lot more with, but they didn't. And that was kind of my big regret, was when Max starts saying, we can't just start killing her and thinking about acceptable losses. And it's like, aren't you a soldier? He's part of the military.
I know.
I mean, that's something, you may not like it, but eventually you may have to accept the fact that some people are going to die under your watch. You can do everything to mitigate that, but the idea has to come into your mind at some point that says, someone is going to have to die for this.
How do you think he's going to do as director?
That's kind of my big concern, because at the end of the season, getting back on the topic, at the end of the season, they appoint Mac the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Which I like. He has very good, he's a very charismatic character. The actor portrays him well.
I think he's going to try to, get back to the point of, we're doing this, they kind of got caught up in all their bullshit, the last two seasons. He is going to bring it back to, the values of S.H.I.E.L.D. We are here to save people.
Really? The values of S.H.I.E.L.D.? So,
hopefully.
Subterfuge, spying, assassinations, making giant death machines that may or may not be able to target and spy on every single person on the face of the planet at one given moment in time. Just like Nick Fury envisioned.
Okay, never mind.
I was about to say, man, the S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't exactly established.
Coulson's values of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay, there we go. Coulson, well, then again, Coulson also established a lot of really... Coulson was very much a soldier.
Yeah.
I mean, even Fury describes him as his right hand. Or his good eye. Coulson was always very much the planner and the talker versus Maria Hill, who was basically Fury's right-hand man. No. Which, I'm really sad that they don't bring Maria Hill into this. But thanks to Infinity War, she's gone. See, again, you could have had her come in and be this director who really people don't kind of like, but she's what is needed.
Do you think Mac's going to lose his eye?
Oh, and he's going to be New Fury? Oh, God, no. No, even better. They go the comic book route, and it turns out he's Fury's son from an alternate reality that was dropped into ours. Except he doesn't remember any of it, and he loses his eye that way. It's so awful.
I forgot they...
ABC, make it happen.
No, but that was white Nick Fury had a mixed kid,
Like they paid attention to anything else.
And then, white Nick Fury retired, so black Nick Fury took over. Just so they could make him look more like the comics. Well, or more like the movies in all the universes.
Hasselhoff Nick Fury kind of take the Watcher's eye, and so they basically made him the new Watcher?
I don't...
Like that was his penance?
I don't remember that.
Well, yeah, there was something in the comics where Nick Fury killed and took the Watcher's eye so that he could see and understand what was going to be happening, so he could fight the whatever was going on in that series. And after it was all said and done, they were like, "Well, you really fucked a lot of people over. Guess what? You're gonna go live on the moon now. Get the fuck out." And they made him the Watcher. I'll try and find it. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. If I'm wrong, he'll put a little annotation underneath me that just reads "idiot asshole."
No, we'll Google it. We'll give it a Google later.
God, that sounds dirty.
I think that's all I really have to say about this.
That's all we really can say at this point, because it, like I said at the beginning of this just kind of ends. Like, there's no real satisfying conclusion to anything.
Yeah, this is why we didn't do like episode to episode this year. It's just
nothing's really happened.
Yeah,
a sequence of events occurred, and sometimes
after a really shitty Inhumans TV
show, and occasionally they would gel into a cohesive subplot.
Every now and then.
But yeah, outside of that, not a lot really occurred. It was a lot of jerk off motions.
Wasted potential. So much potential.
Yeah, that again.
That's the reason I'm most mad about this season. They just wasted so much potential.
Yes,
you could have tied in Infinity War and left it on a cliffhanger. You could have fucking actually done something with Ruby and have her be like this thing, and Daisy and her could have been going at it at the end of the season, and Daisy could have been like, fuck, I can't beat her, what do I do? And then Thanos just gets rid of her.
Right.
So Thanos is accidentally the hero of the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, no, you know what would have been even better? They go the original route that I thought they were going to do, and they actually give her the super soldier serum, or a makeshift version, and that makes her crazy-ish. Like, she goes off on a superpower kick, but then it turns out that Daisy's the one who gets erased.
Oh, man.
And so Ruby's left with figurative blue balls about not being able to take down her greatest rival in her own head. But doing so forces her to look past her own limitations and understand and try and work with S.H.I.E.L.D. like that, rather than Talbot. And then you could have a power dynamic between the person who physically tortured Talbot, and Talbot having to be one of the people now in the S.H.I.E.L.D. command structure because everybody else is gone.
Damn.
I think we just, in 3 minutes, wrote a better ending / beginning than this series provided in, I don't know how long it was spent in a writer's room.
Oh, man. I don't know.
I'm sure there's some kind of reason why that didn't happen. Like, there's some kind of backroom deal through Disney and ABC broadcasting, but
I just don't know why it's so far fucking separated, man. Ugh. You don't want the Runaways to show up. I want somebody to do fucking something.
Did that show even happen?
Yeah, dude. It's on Hulu.
Oh.
It was a Hulu exclusive. It's pretty good, actually. It's not bad.
I might give it a check out. That's kind of all I've got for this show. I mean, it was kind of all over the place, which meant we were all over the place. A lot of little things happened, but nothing really stuck. It felt like one of those seasons where they just kept throwing shit at the wall to see what stuck, and nothing did.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, here and there in between the shit, but, we just didn't. There was no reason to do episode to episode this year. Yeah,
it would have been a lot of, things happened.
Yep. Oh, guys, let us know what you thought. Did you like this season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Have you not watched it yet? Are you going to watch it? Are you going to binge watch it on Netflix and be really pissed off at the end of 20 hours? What are you going to do? And, go check out Sean's channel. Watch him play some video games and actually have fun.
Occasionally I do.
Occasionally.
Yeah. What if people wanted to know when you put out videos? Is there a certain method they can use to ensure that they get notified when you publish a video?
They can hit that little like and subscribe button and that little bell. Get the ring-a-ding when I put out a new video.
Ring-a-ding? What are you, a 1930s gangster?
Maybe. Yeah,
you Benny from Fallout New Vegas?
Hey, we're all over the place. Why not?
You're gonna shoot me in the head and leave me in a ditch so I can be found by a robot in the middle of Good Springs?
Why not? We're going for broke with that.
You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you?
Vaguely.
God damn it.
But then I'm gonna time travel back and not kill you, and screw up the timeline.
Man, that would have made Fallout New Vegas a way different game. We'll catch you next time, everybody.
Later.
Laters.